Hello, everybody. Wednesday night golf show from Awesemo.com. Ben Raza, Jason Roslin. We are ready to rock, ready to do this. We got the Waste Management, another good tournament. How are you, my man? You ready to go?
Yeah, I needed last week to be done so
Yeah,
badly.
you and me both.
It was a struggle. I faded Rose, and even on the show, I said why, and I couldn't have been more wrong. And that's going to happen, especially when you take a stance against the best golfer in the world, right? So I'm happy for the greatest show on turf this week. It's a really fun tournament. It's unlike any other. We're going to get a baseball stadium around the 16th hole, so I'm really excited for it to begin, to be honest.
It's a good one. Yeah, it's obviously a great atmosphere. It's a fun one. Certainly to be there would be awesome. And it always brings a good field. I mean, obviously we don't have Tiger. That is what it is. That's a whole different animal in itself. But it's quality players. I actually like, it's only 132 golfers, so gives you some more hope. I mean, obviously 6 of 6, in a vacuum should be elevated. And that's really where we're at. So we're going to dig in. We both did shows yesterday, so we've rattled off a lot of plays. We're certainly going to discuss a lot more. A couple things have changed on my end that I want to get to. That does happen from time to time. But as we normally do, where do you want to start? Do you want to talk about the course? Do you want to jump into weather? How do you want to structure it? I'll pass that right back to you.
Yeah. So, well, I'll just recap a little bit of what we
Sure.
did last week. I mean, for me on DraftKings, if you guys aren't following me on Twitter, I recap it. A good week or a bad week, it doesn't really matter. So, I had pretty much nothing to report. I pretty much blanked all the way across the board, and it's gonna happen sometimes like that. I had one saving grace that we talked about actually on our Friday show, our betting show live, which is actually going to be tomorrow morning at 11:30. I mentioned on the show betting Rose and DeChambeau live in a double, and that ended up paying off. $20 ended up paying 1,200. So that and a couple other top 25s ended up being okay, but it was still a really down week. And you and I both made a nice charge back in our Make the Cut segment. So I made it around plays this week that I found in my article or in your article. So should be some interesting plays in that segment. But overall, yeah, I'll jump right into the course. I actually went to the tournament about 6 years ago,
Okay.
and it really is, man. It's a fashion show out there. It's not a golf tournament. It seems like every girl that attends Arizona State University attends a tournament on Saturday. You can't even move. It's quite crazy. But it looks like we're going to have perfect weather for the fourth straight tournament. It's pretty unprecedented at this point. We've seen pretty much no effect anywhere. What are you doing with this? I mean, scores are going to be lower yet again.
Definitely. These guys, they just handle every course. And when there's not weather, there's not wind, it's open season. So it's counterintuitive for me. I'm someone who I really do like to target some guys who kind of grind, and you have to, not that you can't go there, but you really got to look, birdies are better percentage, streaks, bonuses, those kind of things are going to come into play. We're going to see low scores, and you got to get guys who are going to attack. Obviously the par fives here, there's a drivable par four. That's where scores are going to be had. You have to take advantage of those. There's some long par fours that you're going to hold on and just try to get through. But I'm really just, I can be a little more aggressive. Like I said, we're 20 less golfers in the field. I'm taking some stabs. I really have this is one of my more aggressive weeks of the year for sure in terms of exposures.
Yeah, I would definitely agree there. And it's just so funny that last week I was on here, and if you look historically, Torrey Pines maybe gets to double digits, right? If we're lucky in terms of score. So obviously conditions mean a ton to what the finishing position is. So I could see this getting into the 20 under this week. I know it's only a par 71, but I think we could get into 20 under, some DraftKings points well into the hundreds this week. So yeah, interesting in that one of the things that I looked at earlier in the week is under 7K this week. I've got about 6 guys, and we'll get to them on DraftKings that I've definitely focused on, and I don't normally have that many in my pool, so we'll definitely get to that. But one of the ones I wanted to get to is I wanted to talk about some of the chalkier guys, because obviously last week we saw Justin Rose come in at 13%, and for him that's pretty against the grain, and obviously that ownership mattered. So one of the first ones that tends to always be one of the highest owned guys, whether it's here or anywhere, is Tony Finau. you buy course history being real with him? In general, I know there's a plenty of debate, but something goes on with him here. What are you doing with him, and do you buy it being real with him?
So, yeah, I mean, course history is always so polarizing. Not to hedge it, but I certainly think there's something to the fact that he doesn't particularly like this place. I don't think he's so affected that he's going to miss the cut every time he comes here. That's ridiculous. We have seen him miss a string. I have some Tony Finau exposure this week. Normally I'm underweight. Not that I'm going to get much leverage. I'm cautiously optimistic. The price is really nice, 9,500. Because of that course history, you're not getting as much buzz. Of course, he's going to carry ownership, but it's not like some of these places when we just see him get into some crazy numbers. And usually that's why I come in underweight. So for me, with these par fives, with the short par four, I still think he just fires off these quality rounds week after week. I do have some. I'm not sure I'm going to get much leverage. For me, I'll just throw it out there. I'm sure we're going to talk about him. Rickie, $100 less is by far my preferred play. No real surprise if you know me. That's normally what I would do.
Yeah, and we just put the ownership projections out just a little bit ago, and we have Tony Finau right around 25%, and it just seems like a little high. And I know his game statistically fits and should fit here, right? But for me, Rickie Fowler making the cut last week is progress. He's
badly.
Yeah. So Rickie Fowler, he's played so badly at that course last week. Now he comes in here and obviously, I think he's probably my preferred play underneath Rahm and JT. I'm going to pair Rickie with Rahm and JT. I've made most of my lineups, but at this point, and at least one of those three is in every single one of my 150 lineups that I did this week.
I'm in a similar boat, and you kind of alluded to this earlier already. There are so many plays that are normally, I feel like sometimes they're in the mid sevens. There are guys at 6,500, 6,800 where I have no problem taking a stab, and it opens it up where I could play Rahm, I could play JT, no problem. So I certainly have a lot of that as well.
Yeah, so let's talk about the ageless wonders for a minute. It's kind of the next boat of salaries that we're going down. Phil Mickelson, Matt Kuchar, both going to be around 20%. Man, they really are the ageless wonders. In their 40s, they're playing better golf than when they were playing against worse competition. By all means, about 10 years ago.
Crazy.
What are you doing with these guys? It sounds like you're going to Rickie, and are you going to get 20% on these guys, or are you going to have a little deleverage on them?
Not there. I get it. Obviously, they are playing. There's no doubt. They're playing incredible. And Phil, typical Phil, I don't feel great. I'm rusty, just firing bullets. Last time we saw him, he's an Arizona State guy. All of that, I get it. I just can't get the leverage on these guys. So for me, it's a ton of Rickie. And one of the things I wanted to mention, so yesterday I said on the show, Cam Smith, I couldn't do it. I have some Cam Smith, more than I thought I was going to. I was actually really impressed. I dug in a little more. His irons are better than I thought they were lately. So really for me, I either bumped down to, we'll get into the eights, obviously, or I paid up Rickie or one of the elite guys.
So I'm just going to circle back real quick because one of the questions I got today throughout the day, let's just say you're putting in one $300 lineup and you're not comfortable with stacking three guys from the 6K to get both JT and Rahm. You have to pick one for that lineup. Who are you going with?
For me, it would be JT. I don't want to say you get an ownership discount because they're both going to be popular, and I get that. I will say I think JT is slightly less owned. And for me, it's just a little more volatility. You do get $500 with it, which it always makes a difference. But man, those are two good. That's a good problem to have because I like both of them a lot.
Yep, absolutely. I know it is a tough one. I said in situations like that, I would always say, does the $500 matter? And if it doesn't matter in that sense, then you probably can't go wrong. I would say, I hope it doesn't cost you a cashing and not cashing. Could a decision like that cost you maybe coming first or a top 10 and not? Yeah, it definitely could, but likely it doesn't cost you a cash and not cashing at this point.
It's one of those things. The way I see it is I feel more comfortable with Rahm. I think they both, obviously, like you said, I would be stunned if either of them missed the cut. But Rahm we've just saw him. He's playing so well. JT's a little, especially at this course, he's got a couple missed cuts in there. I think if one of them struggled immensely, it would be JT. But at the same time, he's just such a good player, so good with the irons. I feel pretty comfortable no matter where you go up top.
Definitely. So as we move down into the eights, this is where we actually find a lot of opportunities of under 10% ownership. And three of the guys, the three lowest owned, at least projected at this point, that are over 7.8 is Austin Cook, Bubba Watson, and Alex Norén. I'm going to ask you to make a case for at least one of the three.
Okay, I will choose Alex Norén. I'm way over on him.
Okay.
First case is he played awful last week, and he is an afterthought. If you used him, you got burned. If you didn't use him, I don't know why you'd say, oh, you know who I should jump on now is Alex Norén. I'll say this. He really struggled on the South course. He made a comeback on the North course, and I don't draw any similarities between Torrey South and this. It's a different animal. Before this, we didn't have a ton of shot link data, but he was playing well, at some of the swing season and whatnot. Obviously, notoriously a good player, and I just really don't worry about a miscut at a course like that. So 8,400, I expect very low ownership, and it's a guy that I just think, for me, I can get to. Austin Cook, we haven't seen him. I believe he had. I was snooping Twitter. I think he just had a kid. I think Rob Bolton tweeted that. So who knows where he's at, where the game is at. I feel more comfortable saying, you know what, I saw Norén last week. It wasn't good, but at the same time, I did see him. So I'll go there at 8,400.
Yeah, and you're probably getting all those guys close to 5%, and that's why I bring that up. It's really interesting, especially if you're playing in the $5. Listen, you're playing against what, 50,000, 60,000 other entries. If you're playing the $9 on FanDuel, you're playing against about 20,000 other entries. So you have to differentiate, and that's one way to do it. Bubba Watson is one of the three that I mentioned.
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Yeah, the case for him is course history, and here's where you can get into a real big debate. However, he's one of the guys that just continues to prove course history for himself, at least, is real. With all the wins at Riviera, all the wins at down in TPC at Hartford, it just seems that Bubba shows up at the same place now. Is that a reason to play him? I don't think so. Not really. Seems like his price is a little too high for me. I would personally rather go to Alex Norén. I think that Alex Norén is in better form than Bubba Watson, even with the miscut last week. He had one bad round, and really almost had a chance to make the cut there late, on Friday at the North course. So I'm Alex Norén here as well if you want to go for the leverage ownership angle. How about any other 8K guys that are going to be in that 10% owned range? Because you can still get easy leverage. 3x the field, it's easy to get 30% there.
Yeah, the 8K range is interesting because I think Benny On is the most polarizing. I think he'll be more popular than that. He's coming over from Europe. I like him in the spot. I do see the risk, no doubt about it. But I think you're right. Other than that, if you go, I'll just throw some names out. Even Champ, who's not going to, but Berger, Putnam, Ches will have some ownership. But other than that, I think, that low 8K Sneds, these are guys that, they're going to carry. You're not going to get them at 1%, but no way they're going to be chalk. Nope. So you can mix and match in there. I don't have a ton, to be honest. Like I said, I have a similar build. We really didn't discuss before the show, but I really like you pay for one of the top guys, you hit a 9K guy, then this is kind of a dead zone. And then I really hit that, the sevens. And if I had to take a flyer, I did. So not a ton for me. Did you have any thoughts on Benny On? I know he's a guy that I've seen a lot of buzz on this week.
Yeah, and that probably, again, has to do with him almost winning here a couple of years ago, being in position to, I think he might have even had the 54-hole lead and ended up, losing it to Matsuyama. But he's a great ball striker. That's the thing. And he's a streaky putter. He's had marginal starts, pretty good, nothing bad in Europe, nothing that I'd say, yeah, we're definitely not playing him. But I would have liked to see him with his first start, over here in a little while, be like 7,800, because then I could pair him and flip him with Answer, a couple of times, and right underneath the Fowler / JT stacks. It fits salary wise, it would fit perfectly, but 8,600 forces me. It really does force me off of Answer and down to more 6,900 guys. So I probably don't have as much as I would have liked to. I think my first build had him around 18%. And, so that doesn't make him a core play for me this week.
It's tough. I do wish he was in the sevens with, Grillo, Answer, Keegan is there. Real quick, and then we'll move on to some of our other segments. There is a guy I want to just quickly, and I know we're going to be hot taking later. Ty Hatton is another guy who, talk about off the radar, he's been nowhere. I couldn't ultimately get there. Do you have any interest in him?
Yeah, so he looked pretty decent in his first start where they were airing it in Abu Dhabi, and then all of a sudden they interviewed him, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't feel really good with my irons." And then instantly he started playing bad with his irons, ended up missing the cut. Said his game is starting to recover. Maybe he had surgery or something done to him over the offseason. It's interesting that he's here.
I was surprised too, to be honest.
Yeah, it seems a little early for him to be over here. I don't think he's trying to have full-time status, but maybe he is. It's a big tournament over in Saudi Arabia. A ton of guys. A ton of guys from the PGA Tour are there. Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Bryson DeChambeau, who might be one of the best players in the world, or might be the best player in the world, along with Justin Rose, who's also over there. 7,900, I can't get there. I'd rather just go to Abraham Hanser, where I've seen recently he missed the cut because of a 3-foot, missed putt on 18. Yeah, I can't get the hat. Yeah, yep. It was sick.
Not good. I'm right with you. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing, because it's just not a guy. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot he existed, and now he's here.
Yeah. So one of the last questions that I had in our buy or sell segment, are you buying Webb Simpson or Gary Woodland? I know we're circling back, but that one I forgot. We also had somebody wanted us to touch on Webb Simpson for a little bit. They're priced the same. We know that some ownership's going to go up high, so somebody's got to be left out. It's either Xander, Gary, or Webb. Somebody is. And you can even bring in Xander in this discussion. Where do you think you can get leverage, and are you getting leverage anywhere here?
I think it's Webb. Woodland, he's churning out good. He played good last week. He's the defending champ. I don't think that's where ownership will not go.
Yeah.
Xander also, he's over 10K. You're going to get some leverage there. Still, though, you look at that recent form, and last week I thought he played a lot. He scored well. I did not think he played well. For me, Webb would be the guy. If you're looking to take the lowest owned, it's him, and he has been good. He just hasn't been around. Having said that, I don't have much Webb, so I'm kind of guilty of what I'm saying. I think for me, I paid up, I paid down, I went balanced, I jammed in, I found the money for JT, for Rahm. But Webb would be the guy if you're looking to say, I'm going to go against the grain up top.
Okay. Yeah. It was just an interesting one because they are priced similar. You'll probably see a lot of cash lineups. There is a lot of guys in that 9K range, especially with Fowler and Finau, who are just DFS favorites, and rightfully so. They're good golfers in their right. So, all right. So we're getting down kind of into the mid-7 section. So this is a perfect time to introduce the Make the Cut segment, because there's a lot of guys kind of in here. We'll cover them as we go along too, because I think one of these, at least a couple of them are going to be good plays. So Daniel Berger sits at 8,200. Good week 2 weeks ago. Missed the cut last week. Doesn't surprise me. I think he gets through this week. How about you?
So I'm going to say he gets through as well, but I don't love him on DraftKings. He's another one. If he was low sevens, he's 8,200. That's no bargain. So I think he does. Like I said, it's a somewhat easier cut to make. You're not. I think he can slip through, but I have a feeling he's not a big impact guy on DFS.
Yep, I definitely agree. A guy that's gotten some buzz, and if he makes cut, is definitely worthy of some DraftKings point. Martin Laird, where do you stand on him this week?
Marty. I'm going to say that and this is against the grain, I'm going to say he gets cut. And I think that'll take – I hope he gets cut, because he could be popular.
He tends to get popular. It's periodic, like randomly. He'll just pop up at like 16%.
I know. It's crazy. He's just the kind of guy, he's a desert guy. He has some Vegas ties and whatnot. So I do think ownership will come with him. I thought he was very fortunate last week to make it through. He was not good, and then he went on a massive massive run. So good for him on Friday. But honestly, the game, I don't know. For me, it's just I don't think it's as consistent as people do. I see him in cash all the time, and I get it in certain spots. But he's someone, when ownership creeps up like I expected to this week, I'll be more than happy to say, you know what, give me other guys in that same range, and I'll live with the pivots.
Yep. I think he does make the cut, but I'm also going to pivot. It's roller coastery. So honestly, if you want Laird, I'm going to say go to the showdown. I think he's a really good showdown format player. Like you said, he can get streaky. He got streaky on Friday. And in showdown, birdie streaks really matter. And he's just a guy that has that opportunity. I don't think he's a great play because he does have some miscut percentage there in him. So another guy in the 7.4 range, this is just perfect for what we're talking about. Brendan Steele, where have you gone and where are you going? I'm not buying back into the form. I know he's a good course, but I don't have him playing the weekend.
Me neither. Again, another guy where I don't want to say, oh, it's no use, but even if he makes it, I'm just not sure how many times Brendan Steele is killing you. There's just so many other players for me I have ahead of him, and I used to love to play him. It's just the game has really fallen off. Even at some of the courses, this is his time. The California swing, obviously, he's had some great success out here. Game's just not really in great shape right now.
Yeah, and maybe a little bit of, with back-to-back seasons of a win, maybe a little bit of a regression there. How about the wonder kid from Chile, Joaquin Niemann? We know he's popular, has been in this price range as well, 7,200, cheapest we've seen him. His putting is, I can officially now say it's worse than Jordan Spieth's at this point. It's really, really bad. I don't know if we can play him until he figures it out, to be honest with you.
Well, I'm playing him. I am playing him. He's going to figure it out on the fly for me.
Okay.
He was so incredibly bad on Sunday. It was
so bad, yeah.
God awful. I'm going to say that this is a course where you could be really aggressive with the driver. I am hoping that he just kind of floods it and sets himself up for so many birdie putts that he figures it out. Now, you're right. If he putts like he did, I don't care how well you're hitting it. You're going to be in Scott Piercy land where you're just done. I'm going to say he makes the weekend, and I think we would both agree, as bad as he's been putting, he is perfect kind of guy who can outscore his placement. So, if he finds 4 rounds, the way he plays, he racks up a ton of points for you, and that can be really pertinent.
Yeah, and when we see the winner get, about 130 and, maybe 5 guys get over 100, if you get 75 points out of Niemann, he's going to help you in the higher dollar buy-ins that you go. He is definitely going to help you. May not help you win the $5, but if he's your core in the $100 single entry or the $150 3 entry, if he scores 75 points, he's going to help you. When I came in third in that a couple weeks ago, I had Albertson at 83 points, and that's sometimes you don't need the guy low owned that's going to get top 10 in the higher dollar buy-in. So as we talk about Albertson, missed the cut on the number last week, huge price drop. He is a big play for me, so I think you can understand the answer that I'm going to give. But that's gonna talk me down some ownership, or do you see him getting the weekend as well?
Man, so this is the kind of play. It's almost on the opposite side of Daniel Berger. I don't particularly like Albertson as much as everyone else, but at 6,300, you can be damn sure I'm playing him. I have plenty of lineups with him. Not that I'm going crazy. I don't want to say that. It's just this is another guy that if he was priced with Berger, I wouldn't have that much interest. But you can make teams very unique by taking a pure punt like that. And the way he strikes the ball, even last week, which was obviously a very tough course for him, he battled. He didn't ultimately get there, but it wasn't like Kyle Stanley, who at some point in the show we'll have to talk about. At least this guy put up a fight. I think he bounces right back. And if he gives you 72 holes, he's probably going to be a positive guy on your team.
Yeah, how about a guy that's been ranking pretty good in some models right around this price range? Maybe a little under-owned, so if you can see him making the weekend, I think he could be a viable DK pivot play. JT Poston.
I play that guy all the time. He's an interesting guy. So he's a good putter. His driver's solid. His irons have actually been the weak link. But lately, they've been getting better, but his driver's kind of been a little leaky. So a course like this, I think he can use the driver as he normally does. Hopefully those irons carry over, and he is a good putter. So he's 7,300. No problem with him. And yes, as Chad just pointed out, Albertson, rough go, but at least he battled. I'm comparing him to Kyle Stanley, who was just the worst player I've ever seen last week.
Yeah, and what did Albertson finish?
He missed by 3 apparently, so he murdered a par 5 at the end, which that's rough.
We doubled that par 5 at the end. That's right.
That'll do it.
He was hanging around on that South course, though. He needed a 2-under on the South, and he was hanging around that all day. And I think I remember watching him late in the day. Still, at 6,300, you got to think that for a good ball striker like him, it's worth it. How about another guy that's been striking the ball pretty well, is rating pretty well in my model, Trey Mullinax at 6,700. Is he in play for you, and you think he gets to the weekend? I think I gave you my answer there.
I'm with you. He's another, and these are the guys. I think he's a very not volatile. I don't even want to say that. Viable would be better word play. Sub-7, good, plenty of length, showing some better form. And he's flashed before. We've seen him actually make an impact in tournaments. Not saying he's going to take one down, but he's been there. Yeah, absolutely. So I have Mullinax as a guy that, there are other people I prefer for cash. I saw actually just a question in chat just now about Stricker. I have Stricker in cash right now. I think he's just a little safer at 6.5, but Mullinax is a guy I have no problem using.
So how about a guy that withdrew here last year, missed the cut last week? Somebody tweeted at him. He's like, hey, man, gamble at your own risk. JJ Spawn, 7,200, again, in that price range that you and I have been talking about for a little while. I mean, I think he's got some upside, but do you see him getting to the weekend? Maybe a little bit of a struggle, or?
So he's an interesting one, not to derail everything, but he's one where course history and course fit, I think, is a good thing. He had played well at Torrey South, and he's an Aztec guy, but that course doesn't fit him at all. He's a short hitter. I didn't really see that. I was not on him too much last week. This is a much better course for him. His irons have cooled off. He had that massive stretch where he should have won and he didn't. I'm kind of indifferent to the play, to be honest. I do have some. I think he finds the weekend, but I'm not sure. I prefer Neiman. I know that's very aggressive, but as I said, I'm being really aggressive this week. So I have some real volatile players in my portfolio.
Sure. Couple of guys that I'm going to ask you, as I told you every week that he plays, just because I want to get a gauge on when you might be coming around, if you're ever going to come around, and maybe you won't. And I'm talking about Cam Champ. Still priced high. I'm sure he's probably not in play for you on DraftKings. But is this the course where you could see him get back to maybe making the cut and getting in the top 30?
I have more interest this week than I've had in a while. I have a couple shares. His price, as you said, and we're going to talk a little, our boy, friend of the show, Eagles, like Yahoo, FanDuel. We're going to talk a little of that at the end here. So it is site dependent. I will say that this is a much better course. I think he can lean on that driver the way he does it. And maybe he doesn't need to gain 10 strokes putting. So I still think he's overpriced. I don't have a ton, but I do think he's good enough to find the weekend and be just fine this week.
Yeah, one of the sub 7K guys that's getting a little bit of buzz that actually did not really make that many of my lineups, but I've seen him priced a little bit. I've seen him ownership a little bit higher than I thought. Nick Watney. We've seen him pop a few times. Is he in your player pool? And do you think he makes the weekend? I don't think he does this week. I'm just going to take a stand because I think I need to. I like plus in DraftKings. I'd rather go down to Mullinax or to Albertson or to Stricker. So he's not really in play. So I guess it's more of he's not really in play for me. Maybe he makes the weekend, but I'm just going to say no because I'd rather people not play him, I guess, and watch. He'll probably win now. But that's kind of the stance I'm taking.
There's going to be a lot of hate in chat. People love Nick Watney, and I love him too. He's got some swagger. I don't have him this week, though. I went up to Bud Cauley. He's 6,900. I was really impressed with how he played last week. You mentioned Mullinax just before. If I had more lineups, I have 50 lineups. If I had 100, 150, I may have 5% Watney. But even there, I don't think I'd get to him in high dollar stuff. Just a couple other guys I prefer in that same range.
Yeah, and even for me, going all the way down to 6,100, and I probably just gave you my answer, but a guy that played good last week comes home. He doesn't have that many starts left. I'm not going to say I'm going all in, but he's at least 30% in the $5 for me, the MME, and that's Brendan Hagee.
Ooh.
He doesn't have that many starts. Like I said, home game. So Is he in your player pool?
You're
And
you're gonna get massive leverage. I like
Yeah.
that. I'm all about massive leverage like that. I do have some Hagee, not nearly as aggressive as you, but you said it. He's a super bomber. He was hurt, so I think he's got a lot of. Most people, I would say, nowadays are using some type of model and data. You got to be careful because he has bad data in there. He's not the same player, and he's not going to be when he's healthy. He's much better than this price. Is he there just yet? Maybe not, but he did show some life. Obviously, got off to that really quick start last week. I'm with you, and you just said it. He's 6,100. That's absurd. So.
And I'm not going to sit here and lie, and I probably won't be the only person to do this, and that's fine because there's plenty of guys you can mix and match. But you take the two up top and you go Albertson and him, and you can make some really unique lineups and feel relatively comfortable. And I'm not going to lie, I've done that a few times and feel comfortable with it. So I like the way pricing rolled out this week for DraftKings. Let's see, did I cover? Oh, one other one that I like because we know Keegan Bradley is a Patriots fan, and we're going to be talking about the Patriots game. Patriots game, the Super Bowl tomorrow on our betting show. But Keegan Bradley is the biggest Patriots fan on tour. There's no doubt about it. Doesn't really play well here. Doesn't play well here when the Patriots are in the Super Bowl. Do you think he makes the weekend, or do you think he's flying to Atlanta to maybe go see the game?
I hope he makes the weekend. I have some Keegan.
Okay.
Just another one. Such a good ball striker. If you fly the bunkers on a lot of these holes, you can just really pin hunt. I've heard it's always firm greens here. I don't think that really hurts him. I'll say this. I have him in cash right now. I'm not sure that's going to hold. I got to do some mixing and matching. But right now, he is actually in my cash lineup. Little of a hedge because I don't have a ton in tournaments, but I definitely have more Keegan than most.
Okay, I like that one. I'm going to say, man, this is a tough one. I can almost assure you that if he misses, he probably will be in Atlanta if he likes going to the games. Yeah, I'm going to take a stand, and I would rather go other people. So I'm going to say he misses the cut.
You prefer like Answer at that range?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, fair enough. I like him too.
Yeah, I mean, Keegan's a great ball striker, so I think you're probably not going wrong with either. But there's a guy at 7,300 that I didn't bring up in this one because I don't know. I think it's pretty easy that both of us would say yes, but Sung J M at 7,300 seems like as good a ball striker as Keegan Bradley at this point.
Sung J M is great. He's just a very good player. I'm again, this is an ownership thing. I'm not sure how much leverage I have, but it's not for lack of trying. I like him this week. No problem in any format. He's someone who could make my cash lineup. He's not in it right now. As I look at it, the other guy I'll throw out. I have a ton of Griot this week. I just think it's a slight misprice. Hasn't had a lot of success here, but that's, again, where I think course history versus course fit. I don't see why he wouldn't be okay at this course. He just needs to play a little better.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So I think that covers my 13. As I said, I always like to pick 13 guys that we talk about in the cut. So I know that we've got a few other questions from the chat. So one of them I'm seeing here. Sam Ryder, Burgoon. We covered Albertson, JB Holmes. So Sam Ryder, Burgoon, or JB Holmes, are you in on any of them? And if so, who?
Burgoon would be my favorite, and you can get 5%. You'll have 5x. He's going to be a 1%er. He's shown no form of late. JB Holmes is not. I was glad to see him have an early week last week. Not a huge fan. Don't have any Ryder. Do you have any of those three? I know they're probably just flyers at best.
No, not for me. JB Holmes, man. A lot of people talked about him last week, and he actually got some pretty good ownership.
He had that out. We knew that was a trap. Get that guy
round one, and then 9 overshot 80, I think, on Friday. What a trap that was. I'm not going back in this week. All right, so I think then we'll definitely keep still taking questions, but a new segment that we wanted to bring in is, since FanDuel has really been up in their game, and they're certainly going to continue to. They got $30,000 up top for a $9 this week, $150K guaranteed. It's about 70% full, so plenty of time to still get in. I do expect it to fill up by morning. But you can always find price discrepancies. If you haven't played over on FanDuel in a while, I'll just tell you a couple of recent changes. First off, their scoring is as quickly as DraftKings is. which is nice now. I know that at the beginning it might have been a little laggy, but it's now right up to date. And they also just changed their scoring for positional points that I think we talked about a little bit last week. And it was great. It was much more streamlined, much easier to follow. So definitely a lot of price discrepancy. So we're going to bring in our top 5 values from FanDuel. And this can be any price range. It doesn't have to be min price guys or guys priced under 8K or what have you. And this can be any price range. So I'll kick it to you first. We'll kind of go back and forth until we get our top 5. So who do you see as your best value over on FanDuel this week?
So even though he's not overly cheap, I'm going to just start with Rickie. He's about the same on both sites, but you can start on. I think FanDuel's. I find it a little easier to build kind of most weeks. I think the pricing is soft. If you really take him, he's 11K. I believe he's the 7th most expensive there. Kind of have your pick of the litter. So I'll start there, and then there's going to be some values. I'll throw just one more out, and then I'll pass it right to you. If you're scrolling down, Joaquin Niemann is 8,900 there. I think that's pretty good value. I like him this week. Like I said, I'm being pretty aggressive with the Chilean man.
Yep, I certainly saw that. So one of the ones, and you can find this on the model that I do. Obviously, it's an easy column. I put the DraftKings versus FanDuel prices. You can come and check that out. One of the cheapest ones is Byung-Hyun Ahn, 8,600 on DraftKings, 9,200 on FanDuel. Sometimes they do create a little bit of an ownership bubble. Sometimes that ends up working out, though, of course, too. Looks like a good value. I am getting my shares of him over on FanDuel this week. I think that's the type of price that I was looking to pay for relative to total ownership, total salary used. That's what I was looking for. So Byung-Hyun Ahn is one. And then the next one was Taylor Gooch. Back-to-back top 5s. He's 8,700 on FanDuel, 7,500 on DK. Those are the two guys I'm really focused on over there for FanDuel. So let me ask you, because I had a guy come in, Phil, who was in our Slack chat, joined right before the show and said, hey, listen, Xander and Rickie are basically priced the same on FanDuel, where on DK, Xander's obviously priced much more. You're going to start Rickie regardless over Xander, even with the price difference?
I am. I really like Rickie this week. He's probably my favorite play on the entire board. So it's more what you want to do. I mean, for me, I look at the sites, and sometimes I fall into a trap where obviously the price matters, but some guys are going to supersede it. Rickie's the type of guy, what I'm looking for him to do, if he does it, it's not going to matter where he's priced because he's going to be in the optimal lineup. If he wins, it doesn't really matter. Some of the cheaper guys, like Albertson's a good example. On DraftKings specifically, his margin for error is gigantic. If he gets you 4 rounds at that price, it's going to make a big difference. Whereas on another site, if he's in the mid-range and he gives you a 47th, that could be a problem. So for the top end guys, I usually just choose best available regardless of price.
Yep, I think that's a pretty good strategy. So any other values that you see? Like John Rahm, obviously he actually is probably a bit cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings, but that has more to do with the total salary. Webb Simpson, though, actually of the top priced range, Webb Simpson is the second cheapest with only $1,100 price difference between the two sites. Does that intrigue you to go get maybe a little bit more if you make some more on FanDuel?
I like him more on FanDuel than I do DraftKings. If I make enough lineups there, he'll certainly crack some of them, no doubt about it. The guy I want to bring up, and this is, it can be FanDuel, certainly he's 9,100 there. I like him more on DraftKings. I wanted to get your thoughts. Carl brought him up, and it's a guy I actually have some interest. He's a Southern boy. Do you have any Chesson Hadley this week? He's always erratic. I think his iron play can carry him here a little. Do you have any interest there as a flyer?
Yeah, so he tweeted out after the Desert Classic his putting and how bad it was, and he was on featured coverage, and he looked really rushed. So if he goes back and looks at that and says, "Man, what was I doing wrong? Because I'm a better putter than losing 2 strokes on the field." He is. He statistically and historically is. So yeah, I think that I would rather play him than a few of the other guys that we've mentioned. I think at the 6,900 that could be a little popular. It's probably a toss-up between him and Keith Mitchell, which are kind of similar prices. I don't know. I'm not quite there. I would rather take the 600 cheaper and go to Albertson. I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay. You really like him?
Yeah, probably the $200 and go to Mullinex too. Hadley's 6,900, right? I think.
I think he's north of 7, so it's even a bigger discount. He is 7,100, so you're getting $800. Which, if you have him close, you're obviously going to take that discount.
Yeah, a couple other guys that I would say for FanDuel, just looking at it quickly, is in the 7K range on DK, you can get a pretty good price differential over to FanDuel. So, Appy Barnrat, if you're interested there, or Sung Kang, who you and I talked about last week, who actually had a pretty good week, priced relatively cheaply. So definitely some opportunities to pick up some leverage on the field.
No, for sure. All right, I got a couple good questions while we were doing FanDuel. We got some from the chat, so I'm gonna pass some. First one we got.
Yeah,
Abraham Answer or Zach Johnson.
Man, so that is a really good one, and I've had this decision, and I've gone Answer. Answer won a big event, a month and a half ago, and Zach Johnson, yeah, he came back at the Desert Classic, but I think I'd rather take Answer here. Like, if they were matched up in a President's Cup matchup, I'd take Answer to win it. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. So I'm going Answer.
I'm with you. I think he's just right now playing as a better player, and you're not going to get, I don't think, a huge ownership difference. People do play Zach Johnson. I prefer Answer in that range. Another one, we got Luke List, who's an interesting guy. I'll just say real quick, I like him. 8K. I think another aggressive guy for me. I have some of those Luke List, Keith Mitchell type lineups where it's just let it fly and hope they can putt.
Yep. I'm a Luke List fan. He had a great year last year. Again, kind of seems like the course that should set up pretty well for him. Use that driver to your advantage. You're not going to get into too much trouble. If it came down to like Answer or List, I would probably still go Answer at this point. I think he's playing a little bit better. I think they're similar because they're both good ball strikers and both not great putters. We saw Answer miss a 3-footer to get the cut. So I know it's probably not quite a 1-to-1, but I would probably still lean Answer there.
Okay, fair enough. I believe, I guess I'll take this one. Dave wants to know what's with the owl. Well, A, I like Dumb and Dumber a lot. B, that owl's won me a lot of money. Right here. Good luck charm. So I hang it right behind.
Is it Hedwig? Is it Hedwig or just a random snow owl?
No, it's the snow. I love Dumb and Dumber, and I saw that. I was in Colorado, and I had a really big golf week when I was there, and I was just like, I'm buying this painting.
I love it. That's great.
I just have it behind me. And I get that question all the time about it. Another one. We did talk some weather, but there is some potential rain. Are you gonna do some tee time stacks? I have a couple just because I don't think there's gonna be a major split. But you can target, if you want to say I'm going to take all the
Friday afternoon. Is it scheduled to come in?
It says, there could be some rain overnight, I believe. Either Thursday night. I've seen that. I've also seen we might get rain on the weekend. That's a lot harder to project.
Yeah, I guess when I looked for yesterday, it looked like basically nothing. Maybe a little bit Friday. Honestly, I'm not going to look at weekend weather. I'll look at that for Showdown. I'll definitely look to leverage it's shown to work in the past to do it in Showdown, but for here, I don't think so unless it's confirmed. I don't think I'm going to play it.
Right with you. If you make enough teams, I stack regardless. A couple, but nothing. We got Sun Kang. We just talked about both these guys, but Sun Kang or Effie Barnrat.
Yeah, so it's funny. I think I just buzzed through them really quick. Kang has the form. Epi Barnrat is probably a better golfer. I mean, official world golf ranking, he definitely is a better golfer. Yeah, I got to go with form. Kang says that he's got it, so that's tough though.
I'm on the other side for what it's worth, and it's funny. I think you broke that down well, and I'll take the stab with. I think he's the better player. No doubt that Sun Kang has been shown. Effie Barnrat's been actually pretty bad, low key bad lately.
Yeah, and I like him. He's a good personality, and he's got that vape thing going, and he doesn't care. Watching him, especially in the practice rounds. I was at the Honda Classic last year, walking around with him, and man, he does not care. He between every shot, he's got the cell phone in one hand and the vape in the other, and it's funny. All right, so Yahoo has also been putting out some contests. I had a question from there earlier. All these guys are min-priced guys, so this is a really good one.
Okay.
So you got to pick. I want you to just rank them 1, 2, 3 for me. And again, this is why looking at site and looking at prices you can sometimes find some good options. So Taylor Gooch, Martin Laird, and Trey Mullinax all min-priced on Yahoo.
And this is where it comes into play. So I have Taylor Gooch is a guy I have 0% on DraftKings. If he was 6,000, I would be playing him though. And that's what you're talking about. So obviously for me, Mullinax in a vacuum would be my favorite, but if I had to rank them and they were all the same price, it would be Gooch, then Mullinax. Martin Laird, I just don't like. No matter what price he was at, it would be a fade for me.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same ballpark. I think that Gooch on FanDuel is pretty decent at 8,700, but on Yahoo, if you're playing in the $10, which is pretty decent, yeah, definitely. I think he's absolutely in play, and I definitely would look at Mullinax as well. So
also your boy Albertson, also the min there. Bud Cauley is there. Yeah, they're all 20, so some very reasonable guys, and that. Not to delve into that, but that's where, and you were saying this at the beginning of the show, if you take a couple of them, it's going to open up where you can make a combination up top of, you could have Xander and Rahm or Woodland and JT or whatever you want to do, and it can still work salary-wise.
Absolutely. So this is a good one. So Ryan Palmer, I had him in the player pool 2 weeks ago, and I said on the show that it was likely he'd come down to the last 3 holes needing a birdie, and he'd have a water ball or 2, and sure enough, it exactly happened. Here we've got 17, which is a drivable par 4, but long and left is water, and then 18, we know we got that big pond in front. It's about a 320 carry. If you hook it, you're dead. 7,700. He played good last week. He rates super well in my model. I'm not going to lie to you. So I do have some. Are you playing him? He's not over 15% for me though.
I'll have a little. I mean, do you worry about? I guess I'm going to pass it right back to you real quick. Why do you even have any exposure? I guess. Or do you think just the talent is there? The irons? Is it something else?
I guess for me in golf, I don't always listen to my model, but he does rate well, and he rates well almost everywhere though, and that's the problem that you see when you build course history into it, and you've got these guys that have played year in and year out and make the cut. He is the relative same price as Abraham Answer. He's got a second place here, so I think it maybe is ceiling value for me, and that's why maybe he projects out a little higher as a ceiling value. Yeah, it's a tough one. That's why I keep him at 15%. I think it's because of the ceiling value of how he creeps into as many lineups as he does for me.
He's the kind of guy that he makes it's such an appealing GPP play just in general, because like you're talking about, he has upside with the way he plays that not a lot of guys have, and a lot of them are bad putters. Let's be honest. That's what happens, because when you can strike it like that, if you get a hot putting round, you can just go so low. I may use him in Showdown. He's the kind of guy I kind of like to do there, just to say, you know what, I'm gonna embrace the volatility. I only need 18 holes out of him. More, I prefer him more in that format, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a great point. I wrote him up for round 2 of last week after the 5 under, and I think he only shot 3 under on the North course, but he had a birdie streak. He had an eagle in there. He's just that guy that will get streaky. He's another one that, and we've brought up a few Showdown guys. Martin Laird and Ryan Palmer would be your guys that if you never played them on week long and you just played them on Showdown, you would be much better off and probably way more positive EV than you already are using those two guys. So might be a strategy that I honestly try to use more often with those two guys. They're just too streaky. If you're trying to build out, for example, if you're trying to build out a $300 lineup or the $1,500, whatever your highest dollar buy-in is, I wouldn't trust them on that. Now, if let's say you're just playing the $5 and you're making 10 lineups and you're not playing any higher dollar amount, yeah, maybe you can get them in on one. But if it's between him or Answer, I'd probably tell you to go Answer. I think you're just going to get more consistency over time there.
Yeah, it's about balance. You want to make a balance within your lineup. If if you have 5 guys and you say, I don't know how much upside I have, if that's your last guy, well, he's going to tip the scale the other way. If you already have some crazy people in there, I don't know why you'd want to add him, because he's not going to give you any added safety, where someone like, to me, Griot, Answer, they're probably not going to kill you. Even though golf is high variance, they're as safe as they come. We do have a good, this is interesting, guys, we haven't talked about. I'm going to throw them all to you. Just tell me if you have any interest.
Yeah,
Brian Gay, Danny Lee, and Stuart Sink. Do you have any real interest in those guys?
So at the beginning of the week, Brian Gay was rating out pretty good, and I had him as that low price cash player. But I tweeted out yesterday that my one switch was Mullinix over Gay, and we talked about Mullinix a lot today on the show, so I think that's pretty clear why. But Gay still stayed in the field, player field for me, only because of the JT and Rom stacks. You need to play some 68, 67, 6,300, 6,100 guys. So, I think I did 40 or 50 of those stacks this week, so he's probably in like 4 or 5 of them, to be honest. So nothing over 5 or 10%, but he's in the player pool this week.
I'm with you. If I had to pick one, it would be Gay. Can get crazy hot with the putter. I prefer Mullen. I prefer Bud Cauley.
Yep.
I prefer a lot of other people, but
the other guys, no shares. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Last one, and then we can get. I have one other thing I got to ask you about too. Yeah. But this first normal golfer, CT Pan, he's a shorter hitter. I think this is a good course. I didn't get there this week though.
Yeah, and course history truthers were out last week. He actually put together a good first round, put together a decent second round, and just totally faded. Yeah, I'm not there. I would rather continue to buy a little bit early on our guy that we've talked about a lot. And I say our guy because I think we both like him, and that's Sam Burns at 7,100. If you're looking for a flyer in that range, CT Pan and Burns are going to come with the same ownership. I'll go Burns.
I got one last thing, and then I'm going to pass it back to you, and you'll carry us home. What do you – because Lord knows that you know me decently well now. Obviously, I don't know about this dude. This Matthew Wolff guy.
Yes.
What do we think about this guy?
So if you haven't caught, Rickie Fowler is producing this show on the Golf Channel now. Oh man, the name is slipping off the top of my head, but it falls around the Oklahoma State golf team. And he is a sophomore there this year, and he is going to be a force on the PGA Tour. And when I say a force, he could be a winner of one of these offshoot events early on in his career. He's got a very unique golf swing. It's
weird.
It looks weird. It looks like, the way I can describe it, if you watched Abraham Answer's swing, it's like Abraham Answer's, but even longer in terms of how far back he goes and what he does, and what it looks like, I should say. So anyways, he pounds the ball. It's going to be fun to watch him play. I don't know if he gets all 4 days. Yeah, he's the third ranked amateur in the world right now, or at least last I checked. He might have gone up since the last I checked. Yeah, I don't know. He's min price on both sides, so maybe he'll get in one of those. John Rahm. In fact, I think if I go look at the builder, I'll probably have one or two. But I know some people are going to be much more heavier on him. I can't quite get there. We did see Brandon Thornberry come in the top 10 at the FedEx St. Jude, but that was against, a lot worse field than we're seeing here. So you playing him at all?
No. It's partly because, I have no idea who this – I saw a swing. I thought it looked like Furyk, but that's neither here nor there. I think
it's similar to it. Yeah, it's a good point. I can get behind that.
The biggest thing for me, and you already talked about this, is the way DraftKings priced. There are legitimate golfers $100 more expensive than him. Like Brandon Hagee is a player that I've seen. So it's not just about this kid. Maybe he does make it. It's, does he beat the 5 other guys? Does he beat Albertson? Does he beat Hagee? Does he beat Blom? That's a tough sell for me. So more power to him. Obviously the pedigree's there. I'll wait and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. So, other golf-related news before we get our hot takes. If you haven't been reading up on the Saudi Arabia stuff, it's gotten out of control over there of people going after the golfers. And Eddie Pepperell wrote a blog. He is an absolute legend, and I am not taking a political stance, and I'm sure you aren't either. But man, Eddie Pepperell just lays it all out there. If you have not read his blog on this, they posted it on golf.com recently. I mean, man, it is he is just a riot and a great social media follow. So always like to bring a little bit of golf news into that.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy, again, doesn't really matter what you think. The way he explains it, even if you disagree, you say, I get what you're saying.
Yep.
And that's the best way to talk about anything. We need more of that in society in general. But
so much.
I really do root for him. Well thought out, and I'm excited to see him hopefully over here a lot more, because he's a pretty talented kid, especially he's found his form. He had a horrible stretch there for a while.
He did, and he's so forthcoming and talked about how hungover he was that Sunday at Boston, and he ended up almost winning the Open Championship. But anyway, so all right, we'll end with our hottest takes. I think unless we have any other questions, I think we can go back to this. We haven't been fantastic at this, but hey, this is hottest takes. So we talked about this guy a lot. He's this week. I loved him coming into this year. The one tournament that he really had a great tournament. We didn't even get to play him because the PGA Tour had 2 events that week. He did help me come in third place a couple weeks ago. I'm going back to him, and I think he top 10s this week. I've bet it on the each way, and that's Anders Albertson. I think he scores top 10, his first top 10 in I'll call a real PGA Tour event.
I like it. Where do I want to go? Decisions. I wish I could just say something about Bill Haas, but he's so incredibly bad. I can't do that. I'm just
into the field with Aaron Badley.
It's so bad. I'm actually going to go right to the top, and I don't know how hot this is. I think he's in the teens, maybe high teens. I say Rickie. I know he's not a big winner. I say he wins. He's just going to take it down. I know a lot of people were disappointed. I actually was encouraged last week. I shouldn't say I didn't expect him to play well. I played him, and I thought he could play better. I was hoping he hit the ground running, but I'm not overly concerned. He loves this course. I think we see Rickie grab one and kind of change the narrative. I know he needs to get it done in real tournaments, but the way people are talking lately, it's like Rickie's never winning again.
Yeah, I like that call. I don't know if it'll – yeah, I guess we can qualify it as a semi-bowl call. I mean, it's 15-1, but we'll let it slide.
I didn't want to get too, every week.
We've been going off the handle. So.
We've been getting crazy. I had some real disturbing calls. I mentioned Ryan Blum in this segment at one point.
Yeah, I was going to say, you definitely talked about
Blum. But dial it back. It's a long season. We got to pace ourselves, Yep. All right. Well, before we get a quick thing.
We got 2 minutes. One thing. Anything in Saudi Arabia? Are you playing any DraftKings, or do you have any bets that you're doing? Anything you've looked at?
I really haven't looked. I'm not going to lie. I know it's a stacked field, and maybe I'll take a look after show. I am building. There's some heavy hitters over there. But to be honest, I'm full disclosure. I think this is not the tangent, but it's an important point. I'm flying tomorrow. I'm going to Florida, and so I'm just busy. And I think it's important not to. Normally, I do play Euro. If your life, don't jam like, oh, I always play 30 lineups, so I should. You don't want to waste.
Money. Do it. Yeah, don't throw money down the drain.
Absolutely. So I scaled it back a little on that side. Just didn't have the time. I'm excited to kind of check it out from just a viewer standpoint, though. I hope I catch some of the golf.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any takes over there?
Yeah. I can't wait to watch this tournament. I absolutely love it. It gets over at the perfect time. It transitions right into the Super Bowl. If I don't have a sweat, then I get to watch the pregame Super Bowl stuff. If not, it leads right into tip-off, so it's pretty awesome.
Absolutely. And I do want to say real quick, you mentioned this already. Normally we have our Friday betting show. Since I'm traveling, the boys were accommodating me. We will be live tomorrow, 11:30. We're going to be talking Super Bowl props, all that good stuff. Actual college basketball, not just like the MAC.
Yeah, not just Buffalo. Yeah, and we'll get some round one matchups that haven't teed off as well.
Definitely. So we have a full show tomorrow. We're going to get on out of here. Like I said, obviously, jump in Slack. If you haven't signed up, you should. Come check out the site. Ton of stuff behind the paywall from Jason, from me, from all our other sports. We got a ton of guys here, obviously doing great work. We'll get on out of here. Good luck. Hit us on Twitter if you have any questions, and we will be with you again tomorrow morning. Take care.
Cheers, guys.